The waiting room at Riverside Medical Center in Dayton was packed with happy couples holding hands and rubbing bellies. I sat there alone, my phone buzzing with another text from my sister asking if I needed her to come. I didn't respond. What was the point? Everyone already knew what I'd done. 3 months ago, I was one of those couples. Nathan had taken the morning off work, something he never did. He'd been so excited about this appointment, our first ultrasound. He'd downloaded 3 different pregnancy apps and could tell you exactly what size fruit our baby was supposed to be that week. A lime, he'd said that morning, kissing my stomach before we left. Our baby was the size of a lime. Looking back now, living in this cramped studio apartment above a Chinese restaurant, I realize I should have told him before we got to that room. But I was a coward. I'd been a coward for months. It started the way these things always start. Nathan and I had been married for 6 years, together for 8. We met at a mutual friend's barbecue when I was 23 and fresh out of hygienist school. He was 25, already established at his construction company, wearing a polo shirt and khakis like he'd stepped out of a catalog. When he offered to get me a drink, he actually waited for my answer instead of just assuming. When he asked for my number, he called the next day exactly when he said he would. Our first date was mini golf and ice cream. Safe, sweet, nothing that would make a good story later. But he made me laugh, remembered everything I told him, and texted to make sure I got home okay. By our 3rd date, I knew he was the kind of man you married. The proposal came 2 years later at the covered bridge in Germantown where we'd had our 3rd date. He'd planned everything perfectly. Photographer hiding in the bushes, my family waiting at a restaurant to celebrate, a ring that was exactly what I'd pinned on my secret Pinterest board. Nathan always paid attention to details. Our wedding was beautiful in that Ohio way. Ceremony at First Presbyterian, reception at the Carillon Park Pavilion, 150 guests who'd known us since we were kids. Nathan cried when I walked down the aisle. His vows were written on index cards because he wanted to get every word right. He promised to love me through ordinary Tuesdays and extraordinary adventures. Looking back, we got a lot more of the former than the latter. We bought the house in Oakwood 3 years ago. 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, original hardwood floors that Nathan refinished himself over 3 weekends. He was so proud of those floors, would point them out to every visitor. The previous owners had left a note about which key opened the sticky garage door and how to sweet-talk the garbage disposal. Nathan laminated it and stuck it inside the kitchen cabinet. That was Nathan. He laminated things. Our life had a rhythm. Monday was grocery shopping at Kroger, where Nathan would push the cart and check items off the list I'd made. Tuesday was his basketball league. Wednesday we'd cook together. He'd chop vegetables while I seasoned the meat, NPR playing in the background. Thursday was my book club, though I usually just drank wine and gossiped with the other dental hygienists. Friday was Marcello's, where Tony would have our usual table ready, and Nathan would order the chicken parmesan every single time. Saturday was for projects. Nathan always had projects. Sunday was church with his parents, then dinner at their house where his mother would hint about grandchildren and Nathan would squeeze my hand under the table. It was a good life, a solid life, the kind our parents had dreamed of for us. Nathan was unfailingly kind, genuinely funny, absolutely devoted. He brought me flowers every Friday, not fancy ones, just whatever looked nice at Trader Joe's. He'd leave notes in my lunch bag, stupid puns that made me roll my eyes and smile. When I had a bad day, he'd run me a bath without being asked. When his company landed a big project, the first person he'd call was me. But somewhere around year 5, I started feeling restless. I'd catch myself staring at other couples at restaurants, the ones who couldn't keep their hands off each other, who whispered secrets and inside jokes, who looked at each other like they held the answers to everything. Nathan and I had become roommates who shared a mortgage and a bed. Good roommates, loving roommates, but roommates nonetheless. The sex had dwindled to scheduled Saturday mornings, efficient and pleasant like everything else in our life. Nathan would shower, I'd brush my teeth, we'd meet in bed for 20 minutes of familiar choreography before starting our weekend. He'd kiss my forehead after, tell me he loved me, then go make coffee while I changed the sheets. It was fine. Everything was fine. When Brandon started at our practice, I noticed him immediately. How could you not? 6'2", shoulders that stretched his scrubs in a way that made the dental assistants giggle, a smile that belonged on a movie screen, not in a strip mall dental office. But it was more than that. It was the way he moved through life like he was starring in his own adventure. While Nathan scheduled our date nights 3 weeks in advance, Brandon would text at 11 p.m. asking if I'd ever seen the city from the roof of the arcade building. At first, it was just friendly. He'd bring coffee for everyone, but mine would have the extra shot I mentioned once. He'd ask about my weekend plans, then Monday he'd remember and ask how they went. When I complained about a difficult patient, he'd do impressions of them until I laughed. Harmless, friendly, professional. The shift happened gradually. Brandon started eating lunch in the break room the same time I did. Our conversations went from surface level to substantial. He told me about his divorce 2 years prior, how his ex-wife said he was too much of a dreamer, never satisfied with regular life. I found myself sharing things I hadn't told anyone, how I sometimes sat in my car for 10 minutes before going inside my own house, how I'd started lying about book club, and just driving around neighborhoods I'd never live in, how I felt like I was watching my life happen instead of living it. "You know what your problem is?" Brandon said one October afternoon, stealing a carrot from my salad. "You're too young to be this settled." "When's the last time you did something that scared you?" I couldn't answer. Nathan and I had honeymooned at an all-inclusive resort where the biggest risk was trying the fish special. Our idea of spontaneous was going to Skyline Chili instead of cooking on a Wednesday. Brandon was everything Nathan wasn't. Where Nathan drove a sensible Honda Accord with excellent safety ratings, Brandon rode a Harley that made the windows rattle. Nathan had one tattoo, my initials on his ring finger, gotten on our first anniversary after weeks of research on the safest parlors. Brandon's arms were sleeved with intricate designs he'd collected on trips to Portland, Austin, places I'd only seen on Instagram. Nathan read Consumer Reports and Civil War biographies. Brandon quoted Kerouac and left dog-eared copies of poetry collections on my desk. But it was more than the superficial differences. When Nathan listened to me talk about my day, he'd offer solutions. How to deal with difficult patients, ways to approach Dr. Patel about a raise. Brandon just listened, really listened, then asked how it all made me feel. Nathan touched me like I was familiar, comfortable, his. Brandon looked at me like I was a mystery he was trying to solve. The office Christmas party was at the Marriott downtown, the same hotel chain where Nathan was staying for his conference, 3 hours away in Columbus. I wore the red dress he'd bought me for our anniversary, the one that made him whistle when I tried it on, but had hung in our closet unworn for 6 months. Nathan texted a photo from his company dinner, him and his co-workers raising glasses, his smile genuine but tired. "Have fun tonight, babe. Sorry I can't be there. Don't let Patel talk you into karaoke. Love you." I hearted the message and ordered another glass of wine. Brandon was wearing a black button-down that made his eyes look impossibly green. He sat next to me during dinner, his knee brushing mine under the table. Every time he leaned over to comment on Patel's terrible speech, I could smell his cologne, something expensive and complicated, not the Old Spice Nathan had worn since college. By 10 p.m., the party was winding down. I was just drunk enough to feel brave, not so drunk that I'd lost all judgment. That would come later, but I'd never admit it wasn't calculated. When Brandon offered to drive me home, I knew exactly what I was doing. His apartment was nothing like our house. Where Nathan and I had carefully matched furniture sets and color-coordinated throw pillows, Brandon lived like he might leave tomorrow. Mismatched chairs around a scratched dining table, photographs taped directly to the walls, books stacked on every surface. It smelled like leather and coffee and possibility. "You want some water?" he asked, but he was already moving closer. No, I said. And that was the last honest thing I'd say for 3 months. The first kiss erased 6 years of marriage, 8 years of partnership, a lifetime of being the good girl who colored inside the lines. Brandon kissed like he rode his motorcycle, dangerous and thrilling and completely in control. When he pulled back to look at me, I saw myself reflected in his eyes, not dependable Melissa who never missed a dentist appointment and alphabetized her spice rack, but someone wild and wanted and worth the risk. We didn't make it to his bedroom that first time. I called Nathan from my car the next morning, still parked outside Brandon's building. Told him I'd gotten too drunk and stayed at my sister's. He believed me instantly, even apologized again for missing the party, said he'd make it up to me when he got home Sunday. The guilt should have swallowed me whole. Instead, I felt electric. The affair became a second full-time job. I downloaded apps that hid text messages, learned to clear browser histories, became an expert at manufacturing dental emergencies that required me to leave early. I opened a separate credit card for hotel rooms, told Nathan it was for his Christmas present. The lying came so easily it scared me. Each deception built on the last until I'd constructed an entire parallel life. Tuesdays became our day. Nathan's basketball league ran until 10, giving me 3 hours. I'd tell him I was getting drinks with my sister, then meet Brandon at the Hampton Inn on Route 35. He'd text me the room number, always different, like we were spies in some Cold War movie. We'd spend 2 hours doing things that would make my book club blush. Then I'd drive home and slip into bed next to my husband, who'd kiss my forehead and pull me close, never noticing I smelled like a different man's cologne. The worst part was how good I got at it. I'd help Nathan plan our weekend projects in the morning, sext Brandon during lunch, then come home and cook dinner like nothing had happened. When Nathan showed me kitchen renovation ideas on his iPad, genuinely excited about giving me the dream kitchen I'd wanted, I'd smile and point out backsplashes while Brandon's messages burned in my hidden folder. "I think we should go with the white subway tile," Nathan would say, his arm around me on the couch. Classic, timeless, like us. I'd agree, knowing Brandon was probably at the gym, his CrossFit friends asking about the married hygienist he was screwing. That's all I was to him, I realize now. A conquest. A bored housewife desperate enough for attention to risk everything. But at the time, I told myself it was more. That the way he traced patterns on my back afterward meant something. That when he said I deserved more than suburban mediocrity, he meant he'd give it to me. Nathan started working overtime in January to pay for the renovation without touching our savings. He'd come home exhausted, sawdust in his hair, and still ask about my day. He'd fall asleep on the couch halfway through whatever show we were watching, and I'd cover him with a blanket and sneak to the bathroom to read Brandon's messages. The juxtaposition was nauseating. My hard-working husband saving for my dream kitchen while I planned which lingerie to wear for another man. The weekend Nathan went to Columbus was when I truly crossed the line from affair to cruelty. 5 days of freedom. I told everyone I had the flu, couldn't possibly see anyone. Then I spent Thursday night through Monday morning at Brandon's apartment, only going home to grab more clothes. We played house in the most pathetic way, cooking breakfast together, sharing his shower, pretending this was real life instead of stolen time. Sunday morning, Nathan called from his hotel room. "Miss you, babe. Can't wait to be home tomorrow. Maybe we can start looking at countertops next weekend?" "Sounds perfect," I said, Brandon's hand on my hip, pulling me back to bed. "I miss you too." Then I missed my period. The panic was immediate. Brandon and I had been careful, but not careful enough apparently. Nathan and I still had sex, but rarely, maybe once a month if he wasn't too tired from work. I bought 3 pregnancy tests, taking them all in the employee bathroom, all positive. I was staring at the 2 pink lines, trying to remember the last time Nathan and I had been together. The calendar on my phone confirmed what I already knew. Nathan had been in Columbus when this baby was conceived. In Brandon's bed, in Brandon's apartment, while my husband was 200 miles away working overtime to buy me granite countertops. I did the math over and over. The timing pointed to Brandon, but it wasn't impossible it could be Nathan's. There was that one night after his company happy hour when he'd come home buzzed and playful. It could have been that night. It could have been. I made my choice then, the coward's choice. I told Nathan that night, showed him the tests. I've never seen someone so happy. He actually cried, pulled me into his arms, kept saying we were finally going to be a family. He called his mother, opened a bottle of sparkling cider to celebrate, started talking about names, nursery colors, whether we should find out the gender. I ended things with Brandon the next day, told him I couldn't see him anymore, that I needed to focus on my marriage. He was upset but not devastated. Later I found out he'd been seeing a CrossFit instructor at his gym the whole time anyway. So much for feeling special. For 5 weeks, I played the part of the excited mother-to-be. Nathan went full suburban dad mode. Baby books, prenatal vitamins he'd remind me to take, downloading apps to track everything. He'd talk to my belly every night, telling the baby about his day. I'd lie there, my secret eating me alive, praying the baby would look like me. The morning of the ultrasound, Nathan was like a kid on Christmas. He'd taken the whole day off, planned for us to go to lunch after, maybe start looking at cribs. In the car, he held my hand and talked about how this baby was going to change everything, how he couldn't wait to be a dad. Dr. Kumar was running late, so we sat in that small room with the examination table and the ultrasound machine for 20 minutes. Nathan studied every poster on the wall, asked questions about the equipment. I stared at my phone, willing time to move faster. When she finally came in, Dr. Kumar was all smiles and congratulations. Nathan jumped up to shake her hand, helped me onto the table. The gel was cold on my stomach. Nathan held my hand as Dr. Kumar moved the wand around, searching for the right angle. "There we go," she said, turning the screen so we could see. "There's your baby." Nathan squeezed my hand so tight it hurt. On the screen was a tiny blob with a flickering heartbeat. Our baby. The size of a lime. "Everything looks great," Dr. Kumar said. "Good heartbeat, measuring right on track. Looks like you're about 11 weeks and 4 days, which puts conception around," she clicked through her computer. "Mid-January. Due date should be early October." The air left the room. Nathan's hand went slack in mine. Mid-January. I watched him do the math in his head. Mid-January, when he'd been in Columbus for 5 days at a conference. Mid-January, when Brandon and I had spent an entire weekend at his apartment while Nathan was gone. "That can't be right," Nathan said quietly. "Check again." Dr. Kumar looked confused, but measured again. 11 weeks, 4 days. These measurements are quite accurate within a few days. Is there a concern? Nathan stood up slowly, like an old man. He looked at me, and in his eyes I saw the exact moment he knew. Not suspected, knew. "I was out of town," he said, not to Dr. Kumar, but to me. "I was in Columbus." "Nathan, wait, let me explain." "Columbus," he repeated. "The Marriott downtown. Room 412. I called you every night from that room." Dr. Kumar excused herself quietly. Smart woman. "It might not be," I started, but even I couldn't finish the lie. Nathan walked to the corner of the room and stood there, facing the wall. His shoulders were shaking. I'd seen him cry exactly 3 times in 8 years. When his grandfather died, when Ohio State lost the championship, and when I told him I was pregnant. This was different. These weren't happy tears or sad tears. These were the tears of someone whose entire world just shattered. "Who?" he asked the wall. "It doesn't matter." "Who?" Louder this time. "Someone from work." He turned around and I almost didn't recognize him. This wasn't my steady, predictable Nathan. This was someone else entirely. "How long?" "It's over. It's been over." "How long?" 3 months. "But Nathan, please, this baby could still be—" "Stop." He held up his hand. "Just stop." He left then. Walked out of the room, out of the building, out of my life. Left me there with gel still on my stomach and our baby on the screen. I found out later he'd driven straight to his brother's house in Indianapolis. Didn't go home, didn't go to work, just drove 2 hours in silence. I know because his brother Michael called me that night, told me in very clear terms what he thought of me and what would happen if I tried to contact Nathan again. The divorce papers came a week later. Nathan's lawyer was thorough. I could have the house until it sold, but Nathan would get his equity back. No alimony, adultery, I was informed, tends to affect those negotiations. He wanted a paternity test when the baby was born. If it was his, we'd work out custody. If not, he wanted nothing to do with either of us. The house sold in 6 weeks. The market was hot, and Nathan had maintained it perfectly, like he did everything. I walked away with $47,000 after the mortgage and lawyers. It seemed like a lot until I started looking for apartments. Turns out dental hygienists don't make enough to afford much in Dayton, especially with a baby on the way. Brandon disappeared when I told him I was keeping the baby, changed jobs, moved to Chicago. His Instagram shows him running marathons with the CrossFit instructor. They look happy. My family picked sides quickly. My parents were devastated but supportive. They had to be. I was carrying their grandchild. My sister Lauren was less forgiving. She'd been in my wedding, had warned me about Brandon, told me I was playing with fire. She was right. She's always right. Nathan's family cut me off completely. His mother, who'd taught me her secret marinara recipe and called me the daughter she never had, blocked my number. His father, who'd walked me down the aisle because my own dad was too drunk, sent back the birthday card I'd mailed him. Even the cousins I'd grown close to unfriended me on social media. The practice where I worked became unbearable. Everyone knew. Small offices can't keep secrets. The other hygienists were professionally polite but personally arctic. Patients started requesting anyone but me. Dr. Patel suggested I might be more comfortable elsewhere. I took the hint and gave notice. Now I work at a chain dental clinic in a strip mall, the kind with ads on bus benches. The pay is worse, the hours are longer, and I'm on my feet all day despite being 7 months pregnant. My apartment is above Lucky Dragon Chinese, and the smell of egg rolls makes me nauseous every morning. It's 500 square feet with windows that don't open all the way, and a radiator that sounds like someone's trapped inside. Nathan never came to another appointment. His lawyer sent a courier for the paternity test authorization. The results came back 2 weeks ago. It's not his. I thought maybe he'd be relieved. Some small part of me hoped he'd see it as a sign we could start over, that the baby wasn't a reminder of my betrayal. I was an idiot. His lawyer sent a 1-line email. My client wishes to proceed with the divorce as outlined. He wants no further contact. I see updates about him through mutual friends' social media. He's lost weight, started rock climbing, grew a beard that actually looks good on him. Sarah from his office posted a photo of their team at a conference in San Diego. Nathan's smiling in a way I haven't seen in years. There's a woman next to him, pretty brunette from their Phoenix office. Her hand is on his arm. Last week was what would have been our 7th anniversary. I spent it assembling a crib from Walmart in my tiny apartment, crying when I couldn't get the side rail to fit properly. Nathan used to handle all that stuff. He was so good with tools, could fix anything. I texted him a photo of the instructions, asking for help, before I remembered we weren't those people anymore. My mom comes by most weekends, brings groceries I can't afford, and stays to help me organize the baby stuff in my cramped space. She doesn't say it, but I can see the disappointment in her eyes. Her daughter, the one who had it all, now single and pregnant in a studio apartment that smells like soy sauce. He was a good man, she said last week, folding tiny onesies. The kind who would have loved this baby, even if it wasn't his. She was right. Nathan would have. If I'd been honest from the beginning, if I'd confessed and begged forgiveness, if I'd given him the choice, he might have stayed. He might have raised another man's baby as his own because that's the kind of man he was. Steady, reliable, good. Instead, I let him believe he was going to be a father I let him dream and plan and hope. I let him stand in that ultrasound room and have his heart broken by a calendar calculation. I humiliated him in the worst possible way. The baby kicks a lot now, especially at night when the restaurant downstairs is busy. It's a boy. I'm going to name him James, after my grandfather. He'll never know Nathan, the man who could have been his father if I hadn't been so selfish, so stupid, so cruel. Sometimes I drive past our old house. There's a new family there now. I can see the swing set in the backyard, the minivan in the driveway. They planted flowers where Nathan's tomato garden used to be. It looks happy. It looks like what we could have had. Nathan's living in one of those new apartments downtown, the kind with a doorman and a gym. His LinkedIn says he got promoted to senior project manager. He's probably making double what he used to. Good for him. He deserves it. He deserves everything good. My friends, the few who still talk to me, say I'll find someone new eventually. That someone will love me and my baby, that I'll have another chance at happiness. They're being kind. Who's going to want a 31-year-old dental hygienist with another man's baby and a cheating history? What dating profile do I create? Single mom who destroyed her marriage for 3 months of excitement with a coworker who didn't even care about her, seeking second chance at love. The truth is, I had my chance. I had a man who loved me, who was building a life with me, who cried with happiness when he thought we were having a baby. I had Sunday dinners and Friday date nights, and someone who kissed me goodbye every morning for 6 years. I had boring, wonderful, steady love. And I threw it away for a guy with tattoos who made me feel young, for hotel rooms and deleted texts and the thrill of doing something wrong, for the fantasy that excitement was more important than trust. My son will be here in 2 months. I'll raise him in this tiny apartment, drop him at daycare at 6 a.m. so I can make it to the clinic on time. I'll miss his first steps because I'll be cleaning teeth. I'll struggle to pay for his school supplies and sports equipment. I'll explain why he doesn't have a dad when he's old enough to ask. And somewhere in this city, Nathan will be living his life. Maybe with the brunette from Phoenix, maybe with someone else. He'll be the kind of husband he always was. Dependable, caring, present. He'll probably have kids who actually belong to him. He'll teach them to use tools and grow tomatoes and be good people. Those kids will have what my son won't. A father who chose to be there. Not because biology demanded it, but because love did. The kind of love I had and destroyed for absolutely nothing. The fortune cookie from last night's dinner is still on my counter. Your past mistakes do not define your future. It's a nice sentiment. It's also a lie. Some mistakes you pay for forever. Some choices destroy not just your future, but everyone else's too. Nathan was excited for the ultrasound until he saw the timeline. Now he's living a different life, a better one. And I'm here, above the lucky dragon, learning the hardest lesson there is. You don't know what you have until you trade it for something worthless. The baby kicks again. It's 2 a.m., and the restaurant is finally closed. In the quiet, I can hear my neighbors fighting through the thin walls, sirens in the distance, all the sounds of a life I chose. Nathan's probably asleep in his downtown apartment, in a bed that doesn't smell like egg rolls, next to someone who didn't betray him. Good for him, I mean that. At least one of us got the life they deserve.